What is up, boys and girls, and welcome back to Laying the Points with Farley Bets. This is the Week 8 contest show. And like I said earlier in the week, we will be focusing on ATS contests for this show because Survivor, particularly Circa Survivor, getting serious. Not sure how many tips and secrets I want to give out about Survivor at this point. Pretty good at it. Won many years in a row, just not the big one, the Circa Survivor contest. So I have 2 entries left in that. Not going to talk about that, unfortunately, but I will talk about ATS contests against the spread. What sides I think have the highest probability of hitting this week. I got 3 of them to talk about. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are top plays for me, for my paying subscribers, but we will get into that a little bit later on the show. We also have a Thursday night football preview between the Vikings and the Chargers, and I'm going to go over quickly my dependability ratings. We also have a great guest today in Jake Sirkus coming on the show. You might remember him from the NFL Roundtable last year, sports betting contributor. We'll get to him in a second. Love Jake. Love hearing his takes. He's very sharp. One of the young studs in our industry. Watch out for Jake Sirkus. With that, my name is Chris Farley. I'm a professional NFL and NBA bettor, 2-time Circuit contest winner the last 3 years. And this is my podcast, Laying the Points, with me, Farley Bets. We have 3 shows per week. A show on Monday where we recap and do all of the thesis statements that I have from every single NFL game from the past weekend. In other words, what are we taking from these games, right? What have we learned, if anything, from the past weekend of games? This is the contest show, and then Friday is our full analysis of every single game upcoming on the weekend, including my leans. So today's the contest show, like I said, but let's go over what happened last week because, as I've said over and over again, this is the time of year where my record, my performance tends to turn around. Did not get off to a good start, around minus 30 units to start the season. What? But I had a similar history performance last year. I'm going to have to look into that. But the resurrection has begun. Plus 8.32 units, 10-4 last weekend. Probably could have been even higher. I mean, you figure, a 10-4 record should probably yield even more than plus 8.32 units. But our 3-unit play on Monday night tanked on the over in the Bucks and Lions game. That was annoying. I just, right in the beginning of that game, the Lions had a chance to go up 14-0. They were in Tampa Bay territory, flubbed it, fumble by Jared Goff. I thought Jared Goff was pretty terrible throughout that whole game, actually. But the Lions pull it out. They won, which hit a parlay for us, but the over did not hit. If the over hit, we're looking at about plus 15 units in week 7. Regardless, on the up and up, we also had 2 NBA plays last night. Had the money lines from October 8th. We put out that article on the Warriors and Rockets. The Rockets take the champions into double overtime. Probably should have won that game. They were controlling that game in the second half. A comeback effort by the Thunder at home. Thunder are apparently still pretty good. But the Warriors did pull through for us. So a plus unit night, 1-1. And I have more plays up, including 2 free plays up on Substack. You can get all my plays at substack.farleybets.com. You can also get weekly and daily plays at sportsmemo.com. But check it out on Substack because I have free NBA plays. I'm plus 96 units the last 4 seasons in the NBA. And we're off to a pretty good start. I will not bet the NBA very much from now until the end of December. Very focused on NFL. But the first week, I think there's more value than usual. So you might see more plays than usual this week. Okay, let's get into a Thursday night preview. Let's do that first. Let's get that out of the way because we have a lot to talk about, and I want to get through this all pretty quickly. As I said on the Monday show, this podcast will be a quicker, shorter podcast because I have other opportunities coming up. That's not a humble brag. It's just a reality. There's only so much time in a day. And I know that you guys like to have information delivered tightly packed in short spurts, right? This is a low attention deficit or it is a high attention deficit disorder society that we're in. I think we have a lower attention span than like a hummingbird, or there's some kind of like weird stat out there about that. That makes sense. So this is going to be shorter than usual. Let's get to it. The Thursday night football game is the Minnesota Vikings at the LA Chargers. The Chargers once again getting love from the marketplace, which just like as a starting point, that's a little confusing because the Charger team that we saw in week 1 against the Chiefs started 3-0. They don't look like the same team anymore. And obviously a large part of that is injuries, right? They are extremely injured defensively. A lot of the guys not coming back on the injured reserve that started this season. Khalil Mack, don't know when he's coming back. I do not think he will play in this game. Now, Joe Alt, left tackle for the Chargers, is trending in the right direction, putting in some limited practices. So maybe he does suit up. That would be a big plus for the Chargers heading into this game. But still, they're on their third and fourth running backs. Omarion Hampton now down, their rookie who looked really good. Obviously, Najee Harris was out before the season, and who knows when he'll come back, if ever. I forget what his injury status is because he was never a factor this season. So it's a lot on Justin Herbert, like squarely. If you look at their lack of defensive talent and depth and their lack of a run game, it's all on Justin Herbert, and he threw the ball 55 times last week. I do not like that heading into this matchup. This is a matchup where I do think that Brian Flores and the aggressive Minnesota defense, which I've talked about plainly, I think is overhyped. I think people think they're a little inflated. Like Brian Flores is a good defensive coordinator, no doubt about it. It's just not consistent enough. But this is a plus matchup for them where they can really focus on Justin Herbert, really put pressure on him. He's good under pressure, but we'll see if Joe Alt plays. But the offensive line in general has been very shaky. They're still a little banged up in general. I think this is a good matchup for the Minnesota defense. Carson Wentz, I don't know how much success he's going to have in this game, but he's been okay. He was all over the place a little bit last week. 2 interceptions against the Eagles. That was a spot for the Eagles, so I didn't think that much of it. But the Chargers defense could be exposed. I mean, look at the way the Colts just did whatever they wanted against the Chargers last week. So don't think the Chargers, who don't have much of a home field advantage, should be getting much love from the market here. They still are. I have to lean Minnesota. And I would also lean to the over in this game on both sides. The defenses are still banged up. We might see a return of Andrew Van Ginkel for the Vikings. I love that name. Really crucial player, linebacker for them. He did have a limited practice on Monday, I believe on Tuesday too. So he's trending in the right direction as well. But still, both defenses not as buttoned up, not as healthy as they used to be. So I do think we could get an over here. But judging by what I said before too, in the plus matchup for the Minnesota defense, I don't love it, right? That's just my lean. I think 44.5 is a little low. Thursday night football is a little weird always. And maybe Justin Herbert and Carson Wentz, who both had a lot of interceptions, 5 interceptions between the two of them last week, have a little bit of a comeback effort. Okay, let's move on to our dependability ratings. And I categorize these in 4 different ways. Either the team is not at all dependable, not very dependable, mostly dependable, or very dependable. Before I go through this, there are 10 teams that I see as very predictable at this point, or very dependable at this point. What that means is against the spread, what we can expect from them on a week-to-week basis is very predictable, right? Like we know who they are. I have one team who is not at all dependable. Like I don't know who they are week to week. And actually, they're one of the teams that are playing on Thursday Night Football. The rest, personally, as a sports bettor, the reason why I do things like this is because the rest of the teams, the 23 other teams that are part of this, the 21 other teams that are part of this, that are either not very dependable, mostly dependable, I would remain mostly agnostic about those teams because in general, right, we don't know that much about them. So, or we do know something about them, but we don't know enough to say that they are predictable and dependable every week, I should say. Okay. So again, these are little exercises that I do to help me in my contests, to help me in my bets every single week. And let's get to it. The Cardinals are mostly dependable. Now, Jacoby Brissett has added a wrinkle to their operation. I think he's better for the team than Kyler Murray at this point. But it's an above-average defense. It's a mediocre offense that gets better with Jacoby Brissett. still going through some changes, mostly dependable. The Falcons, very dependable. Why? Now, I know most people would find the Falcons inconsistent. I don't think so. I think on the road, they're not as good. I think their offense is very predictable, right? Like a very simple operation. Michael Penix Jr. has a strong arm, and they have a good run game. That's it. So, the defense is mostly pretty good, but they don't play as well on the road. Baltimore, not very dependable for obvious reasons. Buffalo, not very dependable right now because Buffalo hasn't really shown us that much, right? Like, let's see some consistency from who the Buffalo Bills are. Carolina, mostly dependable. I think we know who Carolina is for the most part. They're a much better run defense. Bryce Young doesn't have to do as much because he has a good run game on offense. I like the direction of Carolina, and they're mostly dependable. They're also better at home. Way better at home. The Bears, mostly dependable. Caleb Williams and his improvement is obvious. Ben Johnson's changes to this roster and this team are obvious and mostly for the better. Although Chicago is still going to have moments where you're like scratching your head, right? So mostly not very dependable. Cincinnati, mostly dependable at this point because we know now that they have a good quarterback who can spin the ball with confidence in Joe Flacco, and they have great wide receivers. So they're going to put up some offense. Like, markets need to catch up to that. Defensively, they're still very bad. So mostly dependable. The Cleveland Browns, I rate them as very dependable. Better at home, better defense at home, stinky offense. We know who they are. Cannot win games in the road. Cowboys, very dependable. No defense. Great offense. I've said it from week one. I said it from the preseason. So I said some things against Dallas in my tweets recently, but that's only because we need to stay humble about the Cowboys. Like, they're not a Super Bowl contender, even if they get Max Crosby. But I said in the beginning and before the season started that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb would be electric. They are. It's a great offense. It's a bad defense. Denver is mostly dependable. Evidence last week, they haven't put it all together, but we know who that team is for the most part. Limited offensively, great defensively, except for last week. Lions, mostly dependable. And you could say very here because I think everybody at this point knows who the Lions are. But now they're going through a ton of defensive injuries again, right? So it's tough. We know what their offense can bring, although I didn't like what Jared Goff brought on Monday night. Green Bay, mostly dependable. Pretty damn good defense, although some of the time they start to flatten out at the end of the game. Not very impressed by their offense. I think their offense is fine. Jordan Love has not turned over the ball, but I'm pretty confident in who this team is. They're okay offensively. They're very good defensively. Texans are very dependable. Their offense is sputtering. It's not looking better, and their defense is great. The Colts are very dependable. The Colts have an argument to make that they have been and they are the best team in the NFL, and they've been very consistent all season. The Jaguars, not very dependable at all. Like, we still don't know who this team is. Liam Cohen, it's a new administration. Trevor Lawrence is up and down. Nah. KC, the Chiefs, the 3-time Super Bowl attendees the last 3 seasons, very dependable. I think this is the best team in the NFL right now, offense and defense. Las Vegas, very dependable. They suck. Chargers, not very dependable. They're going through, I'm saying dependable a lot, but boo. The Chargers are going through some growing pains, and they're going through a lot of injury management. It's not looking good. Not very dependable, just like on Thursday night. The Rams, mostly dependable. They've had some moments where I was like, what's going on here? Like Matthew Stafford, not always sharp in every single game, but for the most part, this is one of the top teams in the NFC. The Miami Dolphins, very dependable. They suck. They're dumpster fire. Sell. The Minnesota Vikings are my only team that is not at all dependable. I don't know what this team is going to do on a week-to-week basis. I like their coach. I kind of like their defense. I don't like their quarterback situation at all. They're injured on offense and defense. I mean, apparently Jordan Mason, right? Like, he might come back. And I guess Aaron Jones is off the IR right now, but they're all over the place. Like, I don't know what to do with Minnesota half the time. Patriots, mostly dependable. Saints, mostly dependable. Giants, mostly dependable. we're starting to know who all those teams are at this point. The Saints in particular, they've impressed me. And I think they're going to play really feisty at home this week in week 8. Jets, one of the few very dependable teams. They're terrible. You got to sell them. Aaron Glenn has no control over this team. They have no quarterback, and they have a dwindling defense. Philadelphia, not very dependable because we've seen up and down performances so far. We don't know which version is going to show up. Now, I do think the Super Bowl contenders and Jalen Hurts prove that they're going to come back and show some things. But, man, it's up and down. Pittsburgh, mostly dependable. San Francisco, mostly dependable. Seattle and Tampa Bay, mostly dependable. These are all teams who, for the most part, we know who they are. San Francisco, going through a lot of injury management, now getting healthier and looking like the old San Francisco. Seattle's been really impressive. Both sides of the ball. It's a surprise to me. They could be very dependable. And, you know, they've been pretty consistent. I'm still not sold yet, but they've been pretty consistent. Need to see them facing better teams. Tampa Bay, same thing. Tennessee, very dependable. Sell. Cam Ward's not there yet. They have no coach. Yeah. I think Jeffrey Simmons is out of the lineup this weekend, by the way. It's not going to be good against the Colts. Commanders, not very dependable just because of their injury management and what they're going through right now, particularly with Jaden Daniels in the offense. Okay, Jake Sirkus is coming up in a few seconds, but let me just get to some Circa plays that I have circled for this weekend for week 8. Again, these are not necessarily my top plays, but I do think that the Chiefs and the Patriots as favorites stand out. Washington is not going to be with Jaden Daniels for that game. I highly doubt it. The medical advice that I listened to, I got some good accounts. It's like Sports Med Analytics on Instagram, something like that. He's great. He's been projecting that Jaden Daniels will not play. Marcus Mariota at Arrowhead against this Chiefs operation. No, don't see it. Patriots against the Browns on the road. The Browns on the road. Nah, don't see it. The Patriots are humming right now. And the Steelers. I love that spot for the Steelers. I love Aaron Rodgers against his former team. I love that the Steelers are coming off a bye, or not a bye, but it's a long rest week of 10 days and Thursday Night Football. I think they play hard for their quarterback. So 3 top spots that I would like against the spread: Chiefs, Patriots, and Steelers. Jake Sirkus is going to have something to say about my favorite ATS grabs. We're going to learn what he likes for week 8. Jake Sirkus, by the way, is a contributor at the Bleacher Report, an NFL bettor, and he has been on my podcast many times in the past, including the NFL Roundtable. Very sharp guy. You can follow him at Jake Sirkus. Ladies and gents, here's Jake.